Motives is a AI researcher that runs consumer interviews to replace focus groups for consumer brands. So picture big brands like Coca-Cola. They're constantly testing new ideas, new marketing campaigns, understanding their customers. Pretty much every company in the world wants to understand their customers better. So we can run those focus groups in a day that would traditionally take 6 to 8 weeks to run. And of course, at a 10x scale, 10x cost advantage with AI powering the whole thing, but still interviewing real people.
Welcome back to the Lobster Talks by Lobster Capital, where we bring you the best YC founders. Today we're in London. We go to where the YC founders are, and I'm very happy to be with Sean from Motives. Motives is an AI native consumer focus group tool. So they're taking this consumer group thing that's been around for decades, making it better, faster with AI. That's what we're diving in. So Sean, thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
Hey, Gabriel. Great to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. So let's dive in. Maybe start with a short introduction of yourself and of Motives. Hopefully you say it better than me. And then we'll dive into a lot of your YC experience, where you are, what you do, etc.
Fantastic. So you captured it well. Motives is a AI researcher that runs consumer interviews to replace focus groups for consumer brands. So picture big brands like Coca-Cola. They're constantly testing new ideas, new marketing campaigns, understanding their customers. Pretty much every company in the world wants to understand their customers better. So we can run those focus groups in a day that would traditionally take 6 to 8 weeks to run. And of course, at a 10x scale, 10x cost advantage with AI powering the whole thing, but still interviewing real people.
That's awesome. So it's at least 10 times faster and 10 times cheaper.
Exactly.
The promises, the beauty of AI. It's
exactly.
insane. And so just to put things into perspective, this has been existing for centuries, probably, testing your product with test customers.
That's a good point. I think it really took off kind of post-war in the 50s, where there's all sorts of innovations in market research.
Right?
Right, exactly.
So it's been existing forever.
Yeah.
And so either you do it internally, or probably you don't have the time, you mandate an agency.
Exactly.
That's going to take a bunch of random people, make sure it's a good sample size, blah, 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 and say, hey, this is the new Coke. Tell us what you think.
Exactly. And what's challenging about that is to find the people, schedule them all to meet at the same time, and then have your staff write a report and bring it back in. It can cost, people are always kind of surprised by these numbers, but it might cost 30 to 50 grand for basically getting a report back from, let's say, 40 people across a few different focus groups that you scheduled.
In 2 months.
In 2 months, and that's right. And you have to wait 2 months to get the research. And so if you want to be iterating quickly, if you have a new maybe marketing campaign idea you want to test, you can only test a handful of your ideas that can afford to wait that long. So people until recently have been using surveys. You can send someone a quick survey. Do you like this or not? What does this make you feel like? But it doesn't really tell you, how should you change these things? What did people like? What was resonating? What not? And so we can bring the advantage, the speed that people want from those surveys, 1 day turnaround for results, but with the depth that people are paying tens of thousands of dollars for from focus groups, combined by having AI run the process.
That's really cool. Okay, so many things to dive into, but just to double down on why I think this is really cool is you could have an idea on Monday, a marketing campaign, send it to Motives, get the results on Tuesday afternoon, send another campaign, do this on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and if you test 5 different ideas, maybe it's slightly too short of a timeline, but whatever, 3, 4 in the week, you come up with something much better. I want to immediately, for the people who listen to us who know YC well, and hopefully there's a lot, I see you guys out there, there's been 2 YC companies. One is actually here in the UK, replacing consumers with AIs. So basically, instead of asking real humans, they're asking AIs what they think of the new Coke. Why haven't you chosen to go down that path? What do you think it's complementary? Do you think it's a competitive? Do you think they end up putting you out of business? Let's go through this thing, because there might be some people like, oh, they do it with real humans. That's so 2020.
Yeah.
And now we do it with AI. Anyway, let's go down that path.
Yeah. I kind of think of them as like my evil twin or my nemesis or something in some
Really?
sense.
Okay.
Well, it's like the other side of the coin or something.
Yeah.
But no, I in reality I think it's a complementary approach basically, which
Probably,
is that
right? Yeah.
we can get today we deliver results, as I said, in about a day or two. It depends a little bit how long it can take to recruit, and we have some human quality control, so we're not kind of like at our max possible speed yet. But once that's there, you still have some friction in the recruiting, so maybe it takes a few hours to get enough responses to get a result. An advantage that people like about the synthetic customer research is that it can take seconds or minutes.
Minutes, yeah.
And so, you can then, if you're working on some designs, for example, and there's lots of small things you want to change, maybe you can, like, in the process of working it, you could use the synthetics. Whereas with us, you wouldn't get it quite fast enough to iterate at this literal, like, in the workflow
So
speed.
you'll never be as fast as them.
We'll never be as fast as them because you need the people to actually kind of sit through and have the conversation. That said, our advantage is that in practice, what we see from our customers is that people don't need to move at the minutes speed, but just moving at a day speed is enough. Because if you're doing a marketing campaign, exactly, if you're doing a marketing campaign, you have a few different stakeholders weighing in on the ideas, you come up with some concepts together, you then have a follow-up meeting a couple of days later to iterate, and if we can fit research in between, that's fast enough.
And we said you'll never be as fast as them, but the other side of the coin could be maybe, I'd be curious what you think, maybe they'll never be as good as you or as precise or, well, they'll never be as human as you.
Exactly.
Do you think, and I know I'm asking you to defend your competitors, but do you think, because again, it's big, YC has backed 2 of them already and they might back more. They still backed you as well, right? So YC didn't say, oh, motives is a terrible idea. We won't, like, they backed you. They love it, obviously. Do you think it gets to a point where it's as good?
So just first, just so I make sure to do it, I'll add a little color to why I think we can be better now, which is there's 2 big things we see from our clients.
I'm sorry to interrupt. There's probably a lot of people that think it'll never be as good, and we still always need motives because we always going to need humans, right?
Exactly. And so, and especially for big decisions, if you're launching a $5 million marketing campaign, if the research you get is only 90% as good as what you could get, that 10% really matters. You're going to be spending millions of dollars on this, so you want to make sure it's as good as possible. So often we find our clients want the highest quality they can deliver. And so, until now, that's been expensive human agencies. We're now finding we can match that quality in a lot of cases. The synthetic respondents can't. They can't get all the way there. It's particularly for new concepts. So if you're testing some new idea, someone gave me a good example of this the other day, which was if Donald Trump said something about immigrants, you could probably, with a reasonable, you'd probably be reasonably able to predict what people would respond to, because he said a lot of stuff like that before. It's a pretty good database.
Donald Trump and immigrants? Really?
Exactly.
I've never heard that.
Right. Exactly. Never. But he also just says, like, totally out there things that you would not have expected to have an opinion on occasionally. And you would not have that much trust in what the synthetic customer database said about what people will think about this, like, totally brand new thing he came up with. And so given that a lot of the kind of new research people want to do is how do people react to totally new either campaigns that the business is doing or like totally fresh news, the fact that you can get real responses from real people, I think will, today is what they really want. The other part of it too is just businesses really love bringing the real voice of a customer in. I think we've seen a lot of skepticism about AI in general.
I was going to say.
But, we've found ways to get over that hurdle of, well, our AI is as good as a human researcher in a lot of ways, but you're still getting a real person.
My first reaction when I saw those companies at YC that I'm talking about was, how do I make sure the results are always accurate and reflect a real person? And you and I, and we're technologists, we believe in this AI world. But if I'm thinking this, the regular customer that's not a YC investor, what are they gonna think?
Yeah.
And you come in and be like, guys, it's humans. Okay. So anyway, thank you for going down that rabbit hole. I think it's super interesting because, again, I don't want people to think, I immediately went to this because I don't want people to think I'm ignoring this other segment. But there's going to be it's a long way until it's probably trusted with the most important stuff. And this is where you come in.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought it. It's a kind of almost fundamental question about human behavior and social science, is like, how possible is it to predict how people think about it? And the market research world has been doing this, trying to develop techniques for decades with, do surveys actually represent what people will actually do? Do focus groups actually predict, the kind of population level results? And I think that all these AI tools are an evolution in that, but it's the much bigger kind of conversation. And I have my opinions, but I'm excited to see how it evolves.
By the way, you're a marketplace. Today, you know how to do it with humans. It's very easy for you to plug in AI. If and when you want to.
Exactly.
The other way around is not true for them. They can't really easily plug humans into the process.
Exactly. So we're keeping an eye on it if we need to launch features.
they're going to be so happy because they don't even have to come on the show and we just talk about them. It's the best for them, right? Okay, let's center it back on motives and I wanted to ask you. So you've been in YC. You went through YC in 2025, summer 25, if I'm correct.
Yep.
The 4 batches of 2025 in YC were really where YC, I think, doubled down, and probably rightfully so, on AI agents. Everyone said 2025 is going to be the agentic year,
Yep.
and that's what it has been.
Yep.
And on businesses, AI native businesses competing with legacy. And that's exactly what you are.
Yep.
Can you try to paint me a picture of what you've seen at YC? Because it was probably a majority of the batch, 70, 80% that either are AI agents or AI native against legacy.
Yep.
What can you tell us about their thesis around it? Because they seem to love it. I also want to know what makes a great business, a sustainable business that's growing like yours, and what's a toy or what's just an experiment like others are, sadly. And again, I'm absolutely not putting you in this category because you're growing really well. It is working. But at YC Demo Day, I also see a lot of things that are not making any revenue, and I'm not sure they will. So, and I don't know if YC knows this before accepting them, or it's let's just try a bunch of things. So what can you tell us about YC's thesis here, what you've seen in your batch with your other batchmates building in this, it might not be the focus group, but, AI agent world, which is a pretty broad topic.
Yeah. So it's, a cool thing about it is I think AI agents are like the perfect thing for the YC approach, which is, fundamentally, it's interesting having gone through YC. It is kind of true. If you read Paul Graham's essays or watch some of the YC videos online, there's not, mystical secrets that they let you know inside. It's really just like reinforcing those things, and hearing it directly from them makes a big difference. And those things are basically like, the slogan is make something people want, but it's really like deeply understand your customers, talk to them to understand what they want, and then like rapidly iterate to solve those problems. And what's so cool
that's
about
YC, by the way, like that's YC.
Yeah.
YC.
Exactly.
And everyone, that's also this show. I'm really sorry to interrupt, but so many people think there's a big secret behind YC. People ask me all the time, probably you as well.
Yes.
What's the secret? There's no secret. It's just do it. That's it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so keep going. Yeah.
It's so that's exactly right. And with AI agents, as a lot of them are kind of fundamentally replacing human services. And I think what's different about, a foundational LLM versus like an AI agent is you basically have to have a really deep understanding of a specific workflow or of a specific kind of like type of customer problem. You then build a chain of LLMs and, other automations with a specific set of guardrails, and that then can solve these problems. And in practice, there's just so much nuance in every different vertical out there that you have to be really, really deeply embedded in what the customers want here. How do I build a good product that solves these things? And so I think AI agents are such a perfect thing for building this YC approach. I'm not surprised that YC is so excited about them, because then you just push people to really get into that and learn those things. Then
it's so interesting. I never thought of it this way. So thank you for surfacing this insight. What you're saying, and I agree, it's so profound, is actually YC is probably the best place in the world to build AI agents.
Yeah.
Because of their approach.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So this YC has been saying, and it's probably true, that there's roughly 1,000 unicorns today in tech, but AI could bring 10,000 new ones. So we could 10x the number of unicorns that are AI unicorns. Could a majority be from YC?
I guess. I mean, I think
hopefully you'll be one of them.
Right, exactly. And thinking about the people in our batch, it's like it's a very high capacity people who are very rapidly getting very deeply into workflows and building
the level of
tools.
YC is rising. That's very interesting to observe as an investor there. So we have also a lot of entrepreneurs watching this and wondering, how can I go to YC? How can I build a company? So something, again, I want to repeat it because it's so cool. If you want to build an AI agent, which is what 99% of companies are today, you should probably go and do it the YC way. Talk to your customers, understand what they want and their pain, and just solve for that. Again, it seems so simple. Where do people get lost along the way?
Oh man, when you get down to doing it, it sounds easy to follow the advice, and then it's
Exactly.
really, really hard in practice. I
Yeah.
think some of the pains, and maybe thinking about AI agents specifically. So one thing that's an advantage of AI agents is you can deliver the MVP as a service. Very traditional YC advice was don't build the product until you validated it.
Mm.
If your first version of your product is someone emails you for something and you do it and you download a spreadsheet and you email it back, that's a good
That's
way to
fine.
validate that you should then build a SaaS tool to do that
Mm.
thing. So, AI agents, a lot of these things you can replace service models with. You can just start doing the service as you learn all the details to build the AI. I think a couple challenges, again, sounds easy. A couple challenges in practice. One is some things are too hard. Sometimes it turns out there's too much nuance
Mm.
in doing them. LLMs seem so capable because they're so good at so many things, but I
And
think
sometimes they suck.
and sometimes they suck. And so sometimes it's like their unpredictability, or this workflow is too complicated, or the kind of decision tree that the person in the business is going through to do this is too complicated. And so you can kind of get excited about doing it, but then get stuck in a service mindset. You can have a hard time getting out of that.
That's super interesting. So many YC companies start by saying we do things manually and we're gonna automate ourselves out of a job to
Yep.
have a product and not a service. Can you know in advance whether or not you're going to be able to dig yourself out of this hole?
I think this is very challenging one, and I imagine too as an investor for you to try to evaluate quickly
That's
which
the
one of these are going to be
worst.
automatable and which
Yeah.
ones are not.
I mean, I have my ideas, but I could be completely wrong.
Yeah, and it's the other
Do you think the founders know?
the other thing that, well, part of it's really what's really challenging about it is you want to, a piece of advice I could say that maybe I feel like sounds smart is like you should very early on test whether this is going to be automatable.
Mm.
But at the same time, you also have to be careful not to come up with your own product vision too early that you're then
Yeah.
building to. And so you kind of have to balance, we're learning new things about what the customers actually want here
Wow.
versus how are we, testing that this is actually going to be useful and that the space is worthwhile at all.
That's really strong. I
I
love
can
that.
I can give kind of an example from our experience, which is a part of it too is refining exactly what the right ICP is and exactly what problem you're solving. So for us, is okay, running qualitative research, running focus groups. An early question for us was: are we selling to the brands that pay for the focus groups, or maybe we should sell to
Mm.
agencies that
Yep.
run the focus groups? And so we kind of sold to both, had a little bit of success with both, but you realize they actually want different things.
Mm.
The agencies want much more control during the process. They want much more overview, oversight. They want, the specific requirements for what they show clients and what they don't. Brands just kind of want the research
The
back.
results.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, there's some kind of other elements that they need for access and whatever. And so those end up being two pretty different products. And uh, if you're trying to build for both at the same time, you
Mm.
can fail that way. If you pick one that doesn't turn out to be that valuable. For us, we found agencies, a lot of them were tire kickers, basically.
Mm.
So you had there was very low signal in sales calls because people really want to talk to you to know what the new AI tool is out there. But often they were never going to buy. And it's hard to filter based on that. Whereas brands, much harder to get a conversation with once you're in. If they're interested enough to talk to you, then
They
the
see
sales
the
process.
value. Mm.
Exactly. And
So you're
so
competing with the agencies.
we're competing with the
Yeah.
agencies.
That's the whole thing. I think it's um, um, maybe it's a Tom Blumfield video, or anyway, it's one of the YC partners video. If he talks about lawyers, if you're building in the lawyer space, you can either sell to them or create your own firm and compete with them.
Yep.
And YC wants to fund those types of companies. The second one, the ones
Yeah.
that are gonna go vertical, AI native, and just compete head to head with your process internally. Is you can just sell cheaper.
Yep.
And probably make more margin.
Exactly.
Than the other one. So that's the name of the game.
And an advantage too for us, and it'd be the same with the law firm case, for example, is, a thing AI services can do is replace human employees in theory. Very difficult organizationally to actually sell that, especially in the short term. If you're replacing agencies, though, at any moment, whenever any of our clients or prospects would be willing to drop an agency and switch to an AI if it's better, faster, cheaper. And we help our customers look better because we're replacing this outsourced service anyway.
And they're saving money thanks to you.
Exactly. Whereas if we were selling to an agency to make them better, their budgets are restricted by the brands they sell to. They don't want to have to shake things up too much. They want to keep the margins where they are. And
did you know that already going into YC, that you would sell directly to brands?
It was a strong hypothesis. I think we were like pretty sure, but I think YC helped us validate, like, okay, close off that agency route, and brands is the future for us.
There's so many questions I want to ask you, but I want to prioritize the one that I like the most. You did see, and I'm not asking you to name names, this shall remain completely anonymous, but you did see in your batch, as with every batch, some companies move forward and really have the momentum, and they make it happen. It's probably a healthy majority.
Yep.
That's because YC is really built for that, and people are very eager. But you see some people who are not on the train, and they're just not moving as fast. And there's the obvious thing. My question is, what are they doing wrong? What are they missing? There's the obvious thing of, the founders maybe are not motivated enough. But like, what have you seen again in the probably in the agentic space?
Yeah.
Are there some pitfalls, some mistakes that you saw them fall into that you're like, oh, that's why they're not? Or what can you tell us? Did you see any commonalities in all of those people?
It's a really interesting question. One, a side point as context I'll add is a thing YC stressed, especially as you started the batch, is that the startup journey is often like meandering and up and down and back and forth. And even the most successful startups have all these like ups and downs and then take off, which, going through it myself, it's definitely not always a up and to the right journey. And so thinking about some of the cases, where people were not having kind of the same traction as everyone else. Part of it, I think, is maybe I don't think I would confidently say that a year from now it'll look like, oh,
it's not flipped.
Exactly. It's. I don't know if there will be a very strong correlation between who looked good right at the end of the batch and who's going to be most successful a year or two from now. I'm sure YC actually has very interesting data.
That's actually the entire thesis of Lobster Capital that you're debunking. So I hope you're wrong.
Yeah. Sorry. No. I might tell you wrong.
I mean, it's very. I'll pause here. I'm sure you have many more interesting. But it's true that some investors, or LPs in Lobster, they tell me, oh, you only invest in the companies at the end of the batch going super quickly. How do you know they're the best at the end? And the answer is, it's not a crystal ball.
Yeah.
Like, some might do really well and then go to zero, and some might do really bad at demo day and then explode. Like, we don't know. Our thesis is, and I'm just plugging my own fun here. It's my show.
So you're right.
Our thesis is we have better odds of actually picking winners if they're already growing. There's still odds that they're going to keep that growth than if we only get companies that are not growing, and maybe some. But that's, by the way, many YC funds invest like that. They just take companies doing 10K revenue only, all of them, and just hope for the best. I think we're doing it better, but I might be proven wrong in 10 years. I might be proven wrong. So, that's our thesis. It resonates with a lot of people. It makes a lot of sense. Company growing, it means the product market fit, etc. But it's not a catch-all. We're going to miss some companies that don't figure it out at demo day or by demo day and figure it out later, and I'm going to go big.
Exactly.
Anyway, so this is interesting. You believe my thesis is wrong. Keep going.
Yeah, and it's so what is it? There definitely are a lot of very impressive people that I've learned a very lot from that grew a crazy amount during YC, and it was like they, partly it's just the effort. I wouldn't say anyone in NYC was putting in like less effort. But like there were some people who were somehow finding like it felt like they were finding more hours in every day. And
some people just don't sleep.
Exactly. Flying around the US to meet with, possible enterprise clients and like closing deals. And it was, I think that is a type of thing that that does really predict probably great success.
Do you think it helps to be like 4 or 5 co-founders instead of 1 or 2, just to have more manpower?
That was an interesting thing. I wouldn't say 4. I don't think I personally knew anyone in the batch that was 4 or 5, but I got to know a bunch that were 3. And I had always kind of, so we're 2, myself and my technical co-founder,
like
Sam.
99% of YC companies.
Exactly. And so I'd always thought 2 is a good number, but 3, I know well a few that are 3, and I think it works really, really well, actually.
Just because they can put in more hours?
I think partly that. The other thing that that we've started found is, so everyone knows you're supposed to do founder-led sales. And so, I, as the business founder, run all the sales myself. Sam, technical founder, leads building the actual product. There's a thing I haven't heard much talk about that we talked a little bit in YC, which was, okay, now you have some customers and you are like working very closely with these customers to learn what they want and build the things. But you also want to keep selling to keep growing and keep validating that the space is big enough and valuable enough. So should it be the CEO who loses a little spare time for sales to do all the time with the existing customers, especially in a very services heavy AI agent business? Or should it be the CTO who does all the customer success, but then you're slowing down on the actual product development? I think there's different solutions for different
If you have a
companies.
third
If you have a third
co-founder,
co-founder, you can. And so
the dream.
Exactly. So the model I saw a couple of these doing was one guy kept doing the new business, one guy kept doing
Oh, that's smart.
working closely and understanding the customer, and that was kind of the product person, and then the third person was the CTO. And so I think there is some advantages to that.
How are you handling it? I want to know now.
So we've kind of flexed between it. For a couple customers, Sam actually has the stronger relationship with them, especially where they've had kind of more technical needs or there's been more development needed for some features they've requested. For the most part, I'm kind of the head of customer
success,
head of customer success, and so I'm doing that. And we're now getting to the point where we're getting a bit more kind of self-serve for our customers. We also have a great I think it's a London specific title, founders associate, which is kind of like a generalist operational person. And so we brought her in.
Is she becoming a co-founder, a third co-founder, or
no? She's but she's kind of a good, like, she helps manage the kind of day-to-day customer relationship, keeping them updated if focus group delivery, stuff like this. Some of this kind of like automated stuff we haven't yet automated in the process that just needs to happen, creating recruitment panels and stuff like that. And so I think that's helping fill some gaps too, is hiring, basically.
How do you think of splitting your now you're okay, you've handed off a few to your CTO, the technical clients, but how do you think of splitting your own time now between new acquisition and existing clients? New clients and existing, like, is it a 50-50? Is it come as it goes, or have you thought about that?
Yeah, it's kind of it's tricky because kind of both deserve to be 100% of the time. Like, you don't ever want to feel like I'm slowing down sales for any other reason. And that's kind of like the top company priority. But at the same time, keeping our current customers happy is really important. And I think this is kind of maybe more true with AI agent businesses than it was with traditional SaaS, is that we're very usage based. It's like, we can't just charge someone a fixed price for a year. It depends how much research they want to do. And we actually, it's everything we get into. A thing YC encouraged us to do was to do more unlimited research, like treat this more like a SaaS model.
Really?
Which is the thing we're exploring with some clients, which is kind of interesting. But, in general, the starting point is if we're doing a lot of research, we expect to pay a lot. If we're doing not that much research, we only expect to pay a little.
That's super interesting. Let's double down on that. So YC has been pushing you since the beginning, and you're only exploring it now, which means you haven't done it during YC.
Oh, sorry. This came up in a office hours with our partner halfway through YC, and so we have been exploring it for a few months with.
That's super interesting, right? Because if it's unlimited, it's like data on your phone. It used to be you only have 10 Gs or whatever. Now it's unlimited, and so people use it more.
Exactly.
And you want people to use it more and more and more, so you kill all the agencies.
Exactly.
And they become addicted, and then you can charge them a high price.
Exactly.
You haven't done it, I guess, because you have some fixed cost per, and so you're afraid of losing money.
Well, at the moment, it's not, at enough scale that we could afford to lose some money. Yeah, basically, and we can get clients to pay enough that we don't lose much. Right. Exactly. We do have some capital. But so, for example, we basically had so it's December now. In July in the YC batch we came up with this idea.
You did July to September, or June to end of August.
Yep.
Was your YC batch, and now we're in December, so you've been done for 5 months.
So we got a couple clients on an unlimited plan starting in September. So this is actually kind of interesting. So we've had kind of 3 months of testing this unlimited plan.
I was being too harsh when I say you haven't done it. You have done it.
Yeah. Right. But I was not quite wrong when I said we were going to explore it. So
as many YC companies, you just ship and immediately make it happen. So that's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been fascinating. So there's kind of three that come to mind. And one, so some things we've learned is, as you were saying, the idea being just get them to do it all the time and get them to use us for it. Our restriction is we need to pay, not a ton of money, but not nothing to the real people who participate in this research. And so there is kind of some cost structure we need to think about. The LLM usage is actually not that bad in the scheme of how much companies are willing to pay, but the participant costs, we can't interview 1 million. It costs a lot of money to interview 1 million people in the extreme. So a thing we've learned from this, though, is even once you enable this for these clients that have it, a thing we're kind of thinking about doing better is, I think right now the place where AI is at is it does 80% of the work for the
Mm-hmm.
client. And then the kind of research manager from the client still needs to do a bit of polishing. Part of it is they just have business context we're not going to have. It's a bit of polishing to bring it into the business. And so at the moment, we've seen with some of our clients, the bottleneck is like their time that they can do that. And so we're going to try to increase that 80% to 99% or even 95% to make it easier for them to just rapidly iterate. We're also doing, I think there's a lot of stuff we can do to train more of their stakeholders to be able to have more people in the marketing team, for example, be able to just run the research faster. And so we're kind of like getting deeper and deeper into the businesses we're working with. But one of the clients on this has been averaging about a study per day for the last 3 months. And they're getting, we had,
Are you making money on that?
I think we'll like roughly break even. I think we're
That's
actually
good.
not, they're
Yeah,
paying
that's good.
enough
Yeah,
that
yeah.
I don't think we're
And
going
you
to
can
lose money
increase
on
the
it.
price in the future and stuff.
Exactly.
So.
And we gave them kind of a, nice good deal just because we thought we had learned so much from this.
That client is going to be so addicted.
And we caught up with them this week. We're actually going to give a talk with them at the Market Research Society AI conference next month about what does unlimited research change about how you do your job. So I'm
That's
excited
awesome.
about kind of talking to the industry about this. But the thing our champion said is that I've been trying for years to get people to do more research, to get all my stakeholders to do more research. And now that I'm able to just make it so easy for them to do it, they don't need any budget for it. They're now all coming to me for way more research. There's way more teams wanting us to do research. And so it's been really cool to
Yeah,
see
that's
this
the idea,
potential.
right? If you give the
Exactly.
unlimited, people are just going to want to do more and more and more and more and more.
Exactly.
That's really
Exactly.
cool. Are you measuring? It seems like you are, because you said 80% and you want to get to 99%. Are you measuring what percentage of your job and the end result is made by AI to try to get it to 100%? Is that something like every month you say, okay, today we're at 80, we want to be at 82 next week and 84, and we just want to bring that thing up? Is that one of the main technical objectives or not?
We have so I think fundamentally yes, although I would never I have this real aversion to putting numbers on things that are too hard to quantify. And I think a lot of startups you can waste a lot of time, I think, trying to do a lot of kind of quantification or data on things that are like kind of very subjective or hard to measure or just small enough sample size. And so we have an internal version and an external version to think about this. So the internal version is an example is the quality control.
Yeah.
So we run an interview. Every once in a while, someone uh, shows up and they're like clearly not the right person for the interview. They've kind of lied on the screener survey we're supposed to do, or maybe they just they say next question to the AI every single question, and they go and the AI has some defenses against this, but can't force them to do it. So we have an AI layer to check this thing, and then it says this interview has been rejected, and then it runs another interview, and so that's pretty good. Sometimes people show up without a shirt on.
Yeah.
And our clients,
you can do that.
If you're Uber, you don't want to show the CMO, here's a video of a guy with a shirt off, saying how much he hates this ad campaign. Like that's not going to be very good. At the moment, we actually have a human skim through everything to make sure everyone's wearing shirts and to check a few other, types of things like that.
This can be automated.
Exactly.
But
so
it's not a priority, or is it? Or you have
it's not a high priority. It'll take a bit of time for an engineer to add this thing, which we'll get to. It takes a human significantly less time to skim over.
It's an arbitrage of it's going to be tougher to build. It's just easy to have someone.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, before too long, engineering resource will improve to make clients to be able to have a human skim over it. And so then we'll do it. But it's also a bit this validation thing. It's like, how much do clients don't want the person with the shirt off. How much they care about people in the room being really dark or whatever. And so part of it's just, we're learning from doing these things. What's important to do.
That's
and then how to do it.
The internal one. That's important because it's your margin.
Exactly.
But then you have the external one. That's also very important because it's the usage of the manpower. If they're not able to do a lot of them, they need to go through them manually. They're not going to do 10 a day.
Exactly.
You need to do that as well.
Exactly.
This is maybe a higher priority. The external part.
Funnily enough, as of let's say last week, yes. So we were doing, as I think a lot of AI agent companies are, we were doing a lot of what's the thing with the treading water very quickly, but moving your feet very quickly below the water, but looking calm above the water. Yeah. So we kind of did a big sprint on getting rid of a lot of the internal stuff we had to do. Yeah. That's now automated in a nice way. Still some work to do there, of course, but now we're turning to, okay, we can kind of make the reporting better, make the analysis better, make our clients' lives much easier. And so that's it. And I think this is where the YC thing we were talking about embedding deeply with your customers and understanding exactly what they want is why we're trying to spend so much time and have my CTO spend so much time with customers, because, they'll say, oh, what I really want is a one-page slide with these results. Oh, what I really want is someone requested yesterday, a podcast. You just did this research. Could I get a 20-minute podcast that with this result that I could send to my CEO to listen to on the way home from work? And like all of these things are very possible. And it's just a matter of how do you want to structure it? What does good UX look like for consuming these things? How do you make it not overwhelming if you've got all these different things you need to look at, make it really clear to different stakeholders coming in, here's what to look at.
I'm listening and I'm thinking there's a playbook to be built here, not by you. You don't have or by me. Like we don't have the time. But like this is actually the exact playbook that almost every startup now, and this is YC is probably building this playbook as well, which is do the YC thing, listen to your customers, etc., and do the thing you said with your feet under the water are like moving, but at the top you're like, this is AI. It's automated. Just
Exactly.
use it, and you're actually doing it.
In the meanwhile, I'm going
it.
into enterprise companies, being like, "Oh yes, we have this,
Yeah, you don't want to say,
we'll make sure you get delivered good research, like whatever it takes."
Exactly, and then automate yourself away. And I have several portfolio companies going through exactly this journey, and it's going really well for all of them, as long as you're understanding the customer enrollment. So there's a playbook here, and that's again for our founders out there and for investors thinking of where to invest in. This is the type of thing we've seen a lot of success at YC, me in my portfolio, including you and a lot of other people. I want to go into another direction completely, which is I want to go to why we're in London, which is something that comes up a lot. Every time I post on LinkedIn about Europe versus the US, it goes viral.
Yep.
Gary Tan has been very vocal saying, if you're not in SF, you're not doing it well.
Yep.
You were in SF for the batch because it's mandatory. You're an American, if I'm...
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You used to live in San Francisco even for a while.
Exactly. And now you're here in London. So tell us more.
It was so interesting being in, YC. And I think I had maybe missed some of the online dialogue or something ahead of joining YC that it was a surprise how much they were pushing being in San Francisco. And I get why. I think they have like a lot of good reasons for it. It has the best startup ecosystem in the world by far. Having lived, when I first moved there when I was 22, 23, and just, my first few years there were incredible. It's everywhere you go, you meet someone doing some really cool tech thing. And I think it really stretches you and it gives you all these good ideas. And it gives you a really good network of great people to build companies with. And I think especially after you've done something like YC, people from YC, our batch, are still doing dinners and swapping notes and stuff like that. We do
which you can't attend.
Which we can't attend, exactly. And actually, luckily, a number of from my small group, most of them left SF to a mix of Europe, New York. Some stayed in SF, but some in Europe, some in New York. So we actually have a regular monthly call that we're still keeping connected. That's so I think that is very important. But I think having those touch points is really valuable to keep up the kind of like intensity and speed, but also just to keep up the sense of perspective.
Yeah.
And not getting too soaked into doing a single thing and remembering to keep your head up. Often you need to pivot. Even reasonably successful startups need to pivot some small things. And so I think kind of keeping that ecosystem is good. For us, though, I think London makes a lot of sense. I think London is, I think if you can get those things I just described outside of San Francisco, which I think partly due to kind of my background and the ecosystems we're in, thanks to YC in part, we have some of that stuff already in London. I think there's a couple big advantages of London for a company like ours specifically. The biggest one is customers. So we sell to big traditional consumer brands or, kind of, CPG companies, people selling physical products. We have some tech customers, but...
You mentioned Uber, right?
We mentioned Uber, so Uber's a customer. But even Uber, for example, their research teams aren't based in San Francisco. Our Uber contacts are in Amsterdam, New York, Sydney. And the kind of main point of contacts are in Amsterdam. And it was actually kind of funny being in the batch. We, moved to San Francisco, try to go and meet your customers in person, got an intro to the right person at Uber, and he was in Amsterdam. So it's like, now we're in San Francisco trying to talk to this guy in Amsterdam, having come all the way here. And so, right, with this being said, other than the kind of handful of tech companies, most of our clients are the types of companies that we based in the U.S. really scattered across the U.S. Somewhere in New York. New York would be a great place for us to be as well.
Yeah, lots of YC companies in New York.
Exactly. Yeah. But there's also a lot of kind of people we want to sell to across the Midwest, in LA, and so a number of places you could be in the U.S. Spend a lot of time flying around. I think that would be a great playbook, and a lot of companies are doing that in our space very, very effectively. In London, 80% of a very large UK-based market is within a 2-hour train. So I was actually in Cardiff yesterday, took a 9 a.m. train to Cardiff, was in customer's office for a couple hours, took them out to lunch, was back in the office here at 5 p.m. And that's like one of the FTSE 100 company, like one of the biggest insurance companies. We can be in Amsterdam very quickly, so many companies in London, companies across the UK. So I think customer access and just like being in person, being obsessively in person has been a real advantage for us, being here in a way that would be harder to in the US.
But it's not American companies, right? It's either global or European companies.
It's a mix. Some of them are American companies that have an office here, and so they'll also have a research team. But something I've noticed is those with the American companies we're selling to, they would have to be Zoom calls anyway because they have a few different people. There's a big furniture company we've been working with, and they have a researcher in Wisconsin, actually, where I'm from, and another researcher in New York. And there's another CPG company they have a couple of people joining from the country. And so it's, if we were there, I'm not saying it would be a bad idea to be there, but we could meet with one person at a time. But London is a lot more dense for this type of thing.
Okay. So I'm guessing you also get good talent on the cheap compared to the US?
And that's the other big advantage is, with the kind of strong universities here, there's been exciting tech companies here for such a long time. We can get really, really high quality talent, and it's crazy where salaries have gone to in San Francisco. And so, and understandably, like I think there's like so many exciting things happening and so many companies with a lot of money paying. But yeah, I think for the cost that people are. I would say hearing from is in the YC batch, even being a very well-funded, very hot YC company, still a real struggle to hire a couple engineers, and the amounts you're paying them are very, very high. For us, there's not as many really exciting YC companies in London. We have not found it very hard to recruit very talented people with great backgrounds.
With less than half the salary.
With less than half the salary. And so I think that is another advantage, which yeah, I think all these things are trade-offs. I definitely could see being SF for us, but I think London right now has been.
Yeah. And then I'm thinking, I'm like, well, New York is exactly in the middle, in between SF and London.
Yeah, exactly.
You said, I think you were maybe thinking of coming back after either a few years or Series A. It's interesting, right? People are like, oh, we love Europe, but then when they need funding, everyone's back in the US.
Yeah.
So is that purely motivated by financing, or do you see yourself coming back to the US? And then we were talking off the air of like, if you hire a great team here of 10 people, you're almost locking yourself in.
Yep.
Because you have to move the entire team. So how do you think about all that?
Yeah, and I think that is definitely one trade-off. And I mean, the motivations for going to the U.S. at some point are basically, it's, for one, as you say, the financing is better. Like that is part of it. And so being over there, it's like such a thicker market. But we also want to build a global, enormous business, and the U.S. of course is this like enormous market for what we're doing. And I think one version I imagine is that the kind of core product development continues to happen in London. And there will be frictions where you need to have good communication and run a hybrid team very effectively. But having like a small, incredibly talented product development team based in London, maybe at some point you have a couple people in the US as well, but then more of a sales team in the US, I think is a potential model. I used to work at Dataiku, which is a French AI ML company. They pulled that off very well. I think when I was there, maybe half of the staff was in the US, but they had this like very dedicated core engineering team in Paris.
You get cheap engineers in Paris, and the founders are French. So.
And they were brilliant. The engineer, I was on the product team, was like constantly impressed by how smart everyone was. And they've built a great product, amazing company, and then just have this like very successful US sales team. And so I think there is a model for that I could imagine.
Is it a play for you specifically, personally, because it's more comfortable instead of flying around the country, to just take a train to Cardiff and be home by 5 instead of being in the. I'm just asking, right? Instead of spending your entire life on the plane, moving across a continent, because the US is 25 times bigger than the UK?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I think that's a good question, because I think that's something I should, admit is like I think it's a better being able to meet as many customers on a train instead of
Mm,
flying across the country and being gone. Like, and I could argue that I'm able to meet many more customers. I think that's true in person because of
mm.
that ability. But yeah, I think it makes kind of for a more sustainable marathon approach to a startup to
It is
be
super
doing it now.
interesting. You're sort of seeing your own health
Yeah,
and marathon running, because it is a marathon.
yeah,
Everyone knows that. As so, you'd rather, because of course we've talked about the positives of being here, but there's arguably a lot of negatives of not being in SF, and
yeah,
we all know about
yeah,
them. But your idea is I'll I'll sort of give away the SF pluses,
yeah.
so that I can have I don't know, an easier life. It's not the way to say it. It's a less stressful thing, so I can go the distance.
Yeah,
Did you think about it this way already before, or is it just like we're piecing it together in this light now, but that's not how you thought about it?
yeah. I think this is kind of piecing together, how I was thinking about it. There's two pieces of YC advice are interesting, actually, relevant to this. One was at the end of the batch when they did their little spiel about make sure to move to SF. And, they said you might say, you need to be in a different city because of your customers or whatever, but you should just admit that you want to.
Yeah,
And that's part of it. It's like, yeah, I think there are business reasons, but it's also like kind of better in some sense. But then the other piece of advice they stress a lot was like a lot of it is about survivability. And that's what I was saying about the ups and downs of a
yeah,
business. And so I think kind of like uh London is a really great place to validate what we're doing and build this good foundation and build this first version of a good product, and then figure out how to scale it. And it's a 7 to 10 year journey
yeah.
in a very good outcome. And so it's like, I think both for me and then therefore for the business, London makes for a good place for that, kind of for those reasons. So it's interesting it's good therapy
It's
session
good. At
here
least
on this
they're
couch.
yeah. At least they're telling you to your face, like, no, 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 no. It's just because you want to, and you're
Uh,
making excuses,
Exactly.
and just
Exactly.
admit it. And it's probably the case. I mean, it's probably true, and that's okay. But yeah, I was talking with another. I was in Amsterdam for an event recently. I was talking with another founder, um, and yeah, both of them are in Amsterdam, and they come to SF once in a while, and it's very weird because now he wants to come to SF. The company is growing, but the company is doing well, but he feels he could grow it better and faster in SF. And they've been in Amsterdam for so long. Both of them have wives and kids,
Mm,
and now it becomes a discussion inside the marriage of like, hey,
yep.
honey, I want to move to SF. And like, no way, I have my life and my friends in Amsterdam. It's a whole thing, and I don't know if they're like, he really wants to move, and I don't know if he'll ever do it.
Yeah,
Um,
it is a really interesting thing, and I think there are a lot of pitfalls being outside of SF that I feel for us we're, to kind of mention, like a little bit less at risk for. I think for kind of
mm,
um, I think if you don't know many other startup founders, for example, and you end up and you're trying to do this in London, and you just don't have anyone to be
if you're isolated.
absorbing ideas from, and it's not even like it's not even like I need someone to go to for advice, but it's that sometimes I get advice that I wasn't looking for just from being in the right circles. And
Yeah.
so I think you can find those circles more and more now in London. I think there's a lot of advantages to, um,
So let me double down on this. I
yeah,
think I agree, because I think most people, the startups fail not when they run out of money, not when when they do run out of money, it is a big problem. But startups don't. Basically, my thesis, and I've seen it before, startups fail when the founders give up. When
yeah,
the founders are like,
yeah,
okay, I'm done. I quit. I'm gonna go do something else. That's when the founder fails, the startup fails. And so that's exactly what you were saying. Like, I have a network in SF. I have peers, people to help me. Do you think people build as fast in London than in SF?
So, okay, so I'm really glad you said that first thing, because I think there is probably a longer conversation about all the cultural differences in tech between Europe and the US. But
Yeah.
I think I think for most people, being in SF makes it easier to not give up
Yeah,
than being in London.
I agree.
For example, when I first started this, I have a very good friend who's English, and he was like, "You're starting a startup?" Like, how are you going to make any money? Like, what happens when you fail?
You're crazy, right?
You're crazy.
Go back, take a job like everyone else here in London.
Exactly.
Yeah. And in SF,
this is like a good friend I'd expect you to sort of. Well, yeah, SF, exactly. Like,
everyone's a founder. It's like,
you're not
are you going to take a job?
Yeah.
Are you insane?
And so I think if you're in Europe and, and things inevitably are really hard at some point in even the most successful startups at a lot of points. And so when those hard things happen, if you're surrounded by that type of culture, it's like, ugh, yeah, I guess this didn't work out. Shouldn't keep stretching it out. If you're in SF, it's like, man, everyone else figured it out somehow. Everyone else went through this.
Everyone is struggling. Everyone else, right? Yeah.
Everyone else is having the same problems. And then, I guess I can keep going. And so I think being aware of that, I think that's one of the big differences. I think this cultural difference makes a lot of more success in SF. And then, so I think your question was about if
are they shipping as fast here? Are they going as fast?
I think that's
because I think Europe is slow and sleepy. Maybe you do, I'm happy to be wrong.
No. I agree, and I think that's a thing Sam, my co-founder, and I have talked about. Is like, how do we keep up that kind of YC mentality?
Is that a problem for you then? I guess.
I think it's our hypothesis is that we can have the best of both worlds. We're having gone through YC, having now have some of the support network. We're still at the group office hours, whatever, with our group. We can kind of use these mentality to do it in London, and so it's partly the culture, and that comes through the type of employees you hire as well.
How do you
exactly
in SF?
In SF, maybe you can hire people from a lot of other. There have been so many other successful startups. You can hire someone who was at Airbnb or whatever. It's probably not even an example for today, but in London, it's not like those people don't exist. There are still so many like really high agency, really fast moving people. Some of them might have worked at some pretty slow moving companies, and so you need to kind of filter and hire correctly. But I think companies like Daitaiku, TrueLayer is another one I used to work with, like fintech unicorn.
And here there's Revolut, there's Monzo and GoCarless from Tom.
Exactly. So like, Revolut people love hiring ex-Revolut people, but also like, so my co-founder Sam used to be at Palantir. We have another engineer who used to be at Palantir with him. There's like big Palantir office here. So there are these kind of like very fast-moving cultures that have great offices in London that you can hire people from. But I think you have to be very deliberate about hiring really great people.
And you'd have to ask the US team at Palantir, is the London team moving as fast as you guys? And I don't know. Like,
that's actually an interesting question.
Maybe yes. Yeah. Maybe they'll be like, those London guys are slackers. I don't know. Revolut is just here. So we know they're moving fast for sure.
Yeah.
This company is so impressive.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe the Palantir guys back in Palo Alto or in SF are like, London, don't get me started. I don't know.
That would be a really interesting question. But so I think overall our take is like a lot of SF default choice makes a lot of sense. There are a lot of advantages you can get in London, but you have to be very, very deliberate about avoiding the risks in order to keep up your.
So basically, I mean, you see some positives, but it's interesting. You're articulating here. There are a lot of negatives being here. You're just trying to navigate them, and hopefully you are. I mean, and so far it seems Motives is doing really well.
Exactly.
But it's tricky.
Exactly.
That's very interesting, and thank you for sort of going down that path with me, because so many people people ask me all the time. I'm from Paris,
right?
And now I'm in SF. And
right.
I've invested in startups in France for the longest time. It's not a good idea, but now I'm investing in not only in Silicon Valley and in YC, and that's exactly my story. Is I just wanted better deal flow. I was like, I'm going to go to SF, and then in SF, I'm going to go to YC. That's the best deal flow. That's how I got here. But I see so many people just even VCs who put 100% of their money in Europe, and not even a small part. There's tech VCs and 0% in Silicon Valley. And I'm like, what are you doing? So anyway.
Well, and it's a whole other conversation about the VC culture being so different. But just, a short anecdote is, various times I've talked to European VCs, and they care about things like, we had raised a pre-seed before YC, and then pivoted
here in the UK.
Okay. Talked to a German VC. We had a pitch deck and an idea, and we were going to start on something. They wanted to know our CAC LTV ratio and 5-year financial projections and all this stuff. And it's crazy. And you go to SF, and it's like, how big is this opportunity? How much do you guys understand about this space?
CAC to LTV is important, but if you're pre-seed, obviously you don't have that.
Exactly.
The one that I hate is the 5-year financial projections. I'm like, what planet do you have to be from?
Exactly. A real misunderstanding of like what this, bet
That's
even
why
is.
I'm so happy when I'm in SF and I don't have to do anything. Okay. whenever you move to SF, let's record another thing, and then you can tell me how London sucked, and that's why you moved to SF.
I'm looking forward to it.
I don't want to. We're in London, so let me not say I'm going to get beat up at the exit. London is a great city, honestly.
Yeah, it's an incredible city. Yeah.
I don't know if it's the right city to build a startup, but let's see. Hopefully you're, I mean,
exactly.
There has been some amazing companies here. So let me, I don't want to be too like, oh my God.
No.
I don't want to sound like Gary Tan. Like, if you're not in SF, you're dead. All right. Yeah. Very cool. Well, thanks for, taking the time.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was great. I hope you liked it.
Yes. It's been a lot of fun.
Okay. Awesome. To our listeners, if you're still here, and I hope you are, because like the quality of the conversation, please consider subscribing, giving us a like or a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. Sorry. We're on YouTube as well. You can watch us. So come subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I'll see you next week with another amazing YC founder. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.